Hi, I'm Steve O'Donnell. I'm the president for Therapies for Inherited Neuropathies, and I'm here with my good friend, Dr. Mike Studer, putting together PT videos for those with Charcot Marie Tooth Disease. We have proven in a mouse model that exercise reduces inflammation and slows down the progression of disease. It takes dedication, it takes commitment, it takes hard work, but if you do the work and you put the time in and do the best you can, I'm sure you'll see results.
Steve, I'm so pleased to be here with you. We've put together an excellent set of exercises that really can all be pursued in your home. So all of the exercises require no equipment, no setup, and nothing but the comforts of your home. You're going to be able to grab some exercise snacks with these videos. You'll find exercises that you're enamored with that you're just going to say, I could just reach over and do a few sit-to-stands. I could roll and get out of bed. I'm going to try this balance exercise while I'm brushing my teeth. So we've got exercises that work on dynamic balance, walking balance, static balance, and we've got strength exercises and flexibility. We've got a whole package for you here. I want to invite you in to watch the videos that we're excited that we've developed together here. Great job, Steve.
Thank you, Mike.
Tom's going to do an exercise that helps to work on his strength from a chair that you could also use at home. Tom, go ahead and stand up if you would. Now he'll sit back down, and now watch, this time he's going to stand up, but on the way down, he's going to sit with his eyes closed. Go ahead and do a few of those if you would, Tom. Now you'll notice that's going to help Tom work on his sense of balance while his body is in motion. Teresa's going to do a strength exercise that addresses her abdominal muscles or her lower stomach muscles. She'll do that just as though you could from a chair at home. Teresa, if you'll stand, actually scoot forward just a little bit on the front of the chair. And now I'd like you to actually just cross your arms. And now if you would, just lean back slowly to touch the back of the chair. And when you come forward with some speed. Now watch as she does this. She's going to be working on control from the lower abdominals, her core, or her stomach muscles, if you will. Back slowly, forward with speed. Steve's going to do a strength exercise, and technically this is a power exercise. Watch as he comes up to standing using his hands with some speed or acceleration. Go ahead, Steve. Now, the best version of this exercise includes him sitting down with some control and coming up with speed. Let's go. That's perfect. Just like that, from your chair at home to build power. Tom's going to do an exercise that addresses his lower leg or calf musculature. Tom, if you'll put your hands on the back of the chair. Now, you could use a countertop for support using this exercise to build your calves at home. Tom's going to lean on the chair and try to raise up so that he's on his toes and off of his heels. Go ahead, Tom. Just like that. Now, as much support from your hands and upper body as you need, you may use, and then additionally, whatever countertop or chair height you need, please adjust accordingly. Teresa's going to do a strength exercise using a resistance band at her knees. She's going to do multi-directional walking, otherwise known as monster walking. Go ahead, Teresa. She's going to bring it backwards. Then to work the sides of her hips, she's going to walk to her right. And she'll bring it back to the left now. That helps her hips multi-directionally. Now, one thing I want you to be aware of is that it's a little bit more difficult as we move the band further away from your hips. Go ahead, Teresa. She's going to try it halfway between knees and ankles because that's almost at her limit. Go ahead. Steve's going to do a strength exercise for his upper body, arms, as well as his core, and we might even be able to get a little bit of a balance stimulus on this. Go ahead, Steve. This is called wall push-ups. Now that looks a little bit easy for you, Steve. Would you like to scoot back just a little bit?
Sure.
All right, by scooting back, he's got to exert a little bit more power to catch himself or decelerate, and also to accelerate. Watch him clap in the middle there. All right, let's do one more, Steve. Oh, and that's something I really want to capture right there. Notice how Steve lost his balance just a little bit there. That's something that you also have the opportunity to do, especially if you're doing this in a hallway at home with another wall back behind you. Teresa's going to do a strength exercise for her arms, her upper body, if you will, and her core. We're going to show you a few different iterations along the way. Go ahead, Teresa. This is called wall push-ups. You can do this at home from a wall, in a hallway, or otherwise. And you'll notice how she can adjust it by allowing herself to go closer to the wall. Hands up higher, maybe a little bit more difficult even. Hands down lower is a different adjustment. And for anyone doing this, if it feels a little bit too easy, you can also modify it by scooting your feet closer together, maybe actually just doing a plank and holding yourself still. You've got many options, including even eyes closed. We're going to work on Steve's ability to stand still and keep his balance. Steve's going to try to do this first iteration of the exercise with his feet apart, and he's going to employ his trekking poles. Go ahead, Steve. Now watch, he's added on head rotations side to side. That makes his eyes move and keeps him from using his visual information. All right, Steve, that looked pretty easy for you. Do you want to try to do it lifting your trekking poles off the floor?
Sure.
Let's try it. So he'll keep up the head rotation, but now he's only got the trekking poles available as needed. Now, Steve, that's still looking pretty easy for you. Do you want to try that with your feet slightly closer together?
Sure.
So you see the progression here as feet move closer together, as his head is rotating, and he's lifted the trekking poles off of the ground. Let's see what you got, Steve. That's just enough stimulus to be healthy for him from a balance perspective. Now, I do want you to note that Steve would prefer to do this without his shoes on so that he can actually get some sense of balance from the bottoms of his feet. People will have different opinions about that, and I want you to be aware of that as well. Now Steve's going to try the same exercise, but moving his head up and down or nodding. Everyone will experience those two a little bit differently. Go ahead, Steve. So we have feet apart, trekking poles employed, head nodding up and down. Steve, make a progression on that. He's elected to go trekking poles up and he's nodding up and down. You may find that you'll lose your balance a little bit more forward and back as you nod up and down as compared left and right. Now you'll notice Steve also adjusted to have his feet closer together now. Trekking poles are on the ground and now they are off the ground with head nodding. That's a challenge right there. You can employ whatever dosage works for you at home. Tom's going to do a standing balance exercise with his feet in a very different configuration. Tom, go ahead and stagger your feet if you would. We call this stage 2 balance or semi-tandem or staggered standing. Now you'll notice he's got his left foot rear and he's going to start to turn his head side to side. Go ahead, Tom. This position of his feet makes the standing even a little bit more difficult. And I'll want you at home to experience this sometimes with your left foot as the rear foot, and now Tom's going to express that with his right foot as the rear foot. You should find a little difference in your abilities between the two legs. That's normal. The rear foot is actually the one giving the most input whenever you express it and change it. Now Tom's going to move to head nodding up and down. That'll be a little bit different than head rotating. And after you've done a few of those, switch your feet again and then see how that goes with the other foot as the rear foot. Go ahead, Tom. That's perfect. We get a little dosage of balance. If you want to get your balance stronger, you need to lift some weights or have a stimulus. Teresa's going to try an iteration of standing balance that's even just a little bit more difficult. She's going to try to stand and balance with her feet lined up. We also call that standing in tightrope or tandem position. This is called stage 3 balance. Teresa's going to have a chair on her right, which you should at home as well if this feels a little too precarious for you. You're up. All right, she's starting with her right foot rear, and she's got her hand just off of the chair. If and when she feels comfortable with this, she may attempt turning her head side to side. That adds a level of difficulty. Remember, we've talked about this. You're not getting a stimulus that strengthens your balance unless it causes you to lose your balance a little bit. That's great. Now, Teresa, let's try this with your left foot as the rear foot. You may find a difference at home between your feet. It's okay to do this with 2 chairs, in a corner, or in a hallway. This takes a lot of concentration, so there's many different ways that we can iterate this. Teresa's trying it right now with her feet lined up and adding the head rotation. Let's eliminate the head rotation if that works better for you at home and for her right here live. I love the opportunity that this gives us. Let's try one more iteration. Teresa, pick whichever foot you want in back. Now, rather than keeping your knees straight, let your knees bend just a little bit. Hold with the strength of your legs and see if that works for you. Look at that. That's a great expression of how every exercise can be modified for a perfect dosage in your body. Having pain-free range of movement or flexibility is very important. Steve's going to do a classic runner stretch right now. He's actually getting benefit at each leg. The forward leg gets some of the calf muscles stretched, and the rear gets a different set of calf muscles stretched. Holding a stretch for about 45 to 60 seconds is about what we're looking for, and then Steve's going to switch legs at this point. You'll want to hold on to a countertop, a firm, reliable chair on this. The other instructions include keeping your feet facing straight forward, not angling them off to the side, inside or outside, and then letting the rear knee be straight. Tom's going to do a stretching exercise using a doorway here. It's going to help his chest and potentially airway so that he can expand his lungs. Tom, go ahead and place your hands on the door jamb. That's great. Now, if you would, just step forward a little bit. Exactly. And allow your chest muscles here to be stretched. You'll notice he's keeping his head upright. His body is leaning forward, and he's keeping himself safe by holding his hands back on the door jamb there. He also has one foot forward that's helping him assure his steadiness. Now Steve's going to demonstrate a dynamic balance exercise or a walking balance exercise that you can do at home in your hallway. As he's walking forward, he's going to turn his head side to side. Go ahead. Now Steve's going to challenge his balance in a different manner, still by walking forward and still in a hallway, but now he's going to turn his head up and down or nod up and down. Go ahead, Steve. Teresa's going to challenge her walking balance multidirectionally. You'll notice her first walk is going to be forward, where she's going to try to take exaggerated long strides. Then we're going to have her walk backwards and each one of the sideways directions. Go ahead, Teresa. Okay, and back. Okay, turn right. 2, 3, 4. Come on back. And 4. Great job. Tom's going to do a series of balance exercises for his walking balance in a hallway that you can also conduct at home. He'll start off with trying to walk just on his heels. You may find this to be the most difficult of the 3 that we're going to do here today. Tom, go ahead. We're going to change the balance stimulus now. Tom's going to continue working on his walking balance, but he's going to try to do it up on toes. Okay, Tom's going to try to walk with his feet lined up now. Tightrope balance or tandem walking. Go ahead, Tom. Steve's going to do a standing in place balance exercise, and you'll be able to use this at home in a hallway where you're going to try to count the number of steps that it takes for you to turn around a full circle. That'll give you a score that you're eventually going to try to beat. Go ahead, Steve. Teresa is going to try to work on her ability to turn, sense her balance, and we're going to push this just a little bit more difficult because at one point she's going to do this with her eyes closed. Remember, if you're going to try this, make certain that you are also doing it in a hallway where you've got protection in different directions. Go ahead, Teresa. There's eyes open. Now she's going to switch directions. She's got a sense of how to do this with her eyes open. Now, Teresa, how about eyes closed? Great. And now when you're doing this at home, you're going to want to commit to this and try to see if you are stopping and starting in the same position. Go ahead, Teresa, to your left. Try to finish facing the same direction you are right now. Tom's going to try to march in place and stay in place. He's going to do this for about 60 seconds in a hallway. If he needed a wall left or right, that would be helpful to have it there. And the goal is, even though his eyes are going to be open, hold position throughout the entire 60 seconds of a march. We'll just show you part of that now. Go ahead, Tom. It's very difficult to compel yourself to stay in place. Very tempting to walk this forward. He's going to try not to lose his balance to the left or the right, or to stagger backward. Now, Teresa's going to try to challenge her balance in yet another way, using a hallway at home. She's going to try to march in place and stay in place, and as she begins, she's going to try to close her eyes, compelling herself to stay in the same position. Once she's done and she's closed her eyes for a good duration, perhaps you're going to go for 20 or 30 steps, then she'll open her eyes and try to see if she stayed in the same position relatively in the hallway. Go ahead, Teresa. Great. Now, you'll notice she moved forward just a little bit. Don't be surprised if you do the same thing. That's okay. You want to have that reference for where you started and where you ended, and just make a game out of it to try to see how stable and still or stationary you can be. Tom's going to try an agility activity here that you can also do with a step, even a single step at home. If you need to use a handrail for this to begin with, or at all times, that's just fine. In Tom's expression of this exercise, he's going to try to touch the step or tap it rapidly, switching legs all of the time. You could time yourself with this and see how many you can conduct, or just try to do it as a balance expression. Tom, go ahead. It's very natural for an individual to try to conduct or commit to the whole motor control. You'll see a couple of times there Tom wanted to continue to ascend up the stairs, and that's really very normal, so don't fault yourself on that at all. He's doing an exceptional job right now. Now Teresa's going to use the stairs for another purpose. She's going to actually use them and propel herself up them. And she's going to be alternating or switching which leg she uses with each repetition. At home, you can do this with one railing, both railing, or if you feel safe enough, with no railing. Something you do once a day or more, every day, is get into and out of bed. That also gives us a really nice place to be able to get some total body or whole body exercise. Teresa's going to do 5 repetitions of lying down to sitting up and lying down to sitting up, repeating them back and forth. Now, if you wanted to make a game out of it and compete, you could time yourself to see how long this takes. Remember, this is a good total body functional exercise with no equipment that you can do at home. Teresa, go ahead. And that could get you a little breathless. You could potentially even do this as a high-intensity interval training with 5 repetitions of fast, a few slow, and go back to fast again. Many different iterations, but just imagine how simple this is and easy to do in the comforts of your own home.
Mike, I'm really proud of what we've been able to accomplish today. I can't thank you enough, buddy.
Hey, it's my pleasure. You know what? I'm so proud because we've got more than a 6-year history in total here of what we've been working on. We've got an initial collection of exercises that still stand the test of time. We've got this collection of exercises that we just rolled. Everything's evidence-based and it's convenient. I appreciate the partnership, Steve.
All right.
Good job.